Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to 40 Under 40, sponsored by Urban Arts Magazine. We are here with yet another dope artist, man. These artists under 40 are doing some amazing things. I hope you've watched the whole series. We have yet another one coming to you from the visual arts world, but not only visual arts, he does a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So I want you to help me welcome to the stage, brother Desmond Blair. Desmond, how are you, man?
Doing good. How you doing this morning?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Yo, thank you for joining us and congrats on being one of the 40 under 40.
Thank you, man. It's an honor. First time being included in something like this. I guess you could say normally I try to keep my head down and just keep at it. But thank you for including me in this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, they say the cream rises to the top. So, you know, creme de la creme for sure. For sure. You came highly recommended.
Thank you.
So obviously, just looking at your background, like you are a visual artist, man. You painted all of those around you.
Yeah. So these are actually things I have in progress right now. So I'm actually starting on a new series. So I should be doing a show. I was targeting March, but I'm just gonna say spring. So maybe
Okay.
March, April for my next showing.
Okay.
So just getting the work ready for that, and so I'll be doing over the next couple of months, is just trying to get all of that in order, and then from there, I do have a pretty ambitious goal for next year, but
Okay.
I saved that for later.
Okay. Gotcha. So looking at your art, and then looking at like your portfolio, like what would you say your style of art is?
Really, I just paint portraits, and I think for me, I mean, you got hyperrealism, you got a bunch of different styles, but I was heavily influenced by comic book art growing up. So
Okay.
like, and really like at my earliest there are before I had access to paints, man, it was pencil, pen, Prismacolor marker. Like I was used to like sketching, making a mess or whatever. And so because of that, as I got older, I got into other mediums or started using other mediums. But when I got to college, I was really focused on like character animation. And the reason being is just learning how to draw for character animation is different. It's like gestural. And so
Mm-hmm.
I like to keep that in my portraiture, like with the way I use my brush strokes and how I use my paint. I want it to feel kind of gestural, but also just, in doing it that way, the goal is to like capture an emotion, a mood, or a feeling with
Nice.
whatever subject I'm painting. And
Nice.
so I try to keep some of those elements in there.
Mm-hmm.
So
How did you get started in painting? Like you don't find a lot of people who look like us stop by and just pick up a paintbrush and then So how did you get started, bro?
well, when I was a kid, like before I could start school, I had to learn how to write, and they told my mom because she wanted me to. I was born without hands, but she wanted me to take like normal classes. Like she didn't
Mm-hmm.
want we were gonna figure it out,
Right.
And so her and my grandma they came up with this idea. Using these coloring books, and really it was my grandma because she was like, "Well, if we can figure out how to get them to color, then you should be able to, paint and do well, not paint, but write so you can go to school."
Right.
But long story short, the summer before it was time for me to actually start school, that's all I did, and me and my grandma like we figured out or tried a bunch of different things until I figured out how to use a crayon with both of my hands, and then once I could scribble with the
Mm-hmm.
crayon, then it was just like every day, 2 or 3 hours, coloring, no mistakes, don't mess up, do it again.
Wow.
And so I learned how to write, but then she kept buying me coloring books, and I started
Mhm.
tracing pictures. And then when I was like 5 years old, I was watching cartoons. And I just drew what was on the TV, and then she
Wow.
started giving me stuff to draw around the house. But
Wow.
I think that was as long as he's doing that, I know where he's at.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For
But
sure.
nah, I just took it as like a challenge. Like it went from cartoons to planes to like anything I could get my hands on. And then
Wow.
I found Bob Ross as I got a little bit older. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have like you said, I didn't have canvas. I didn't have any easels. I talked
Wow.
my mom into getting me like a little starter paint kit from Walmart or something like that
Yeah. Yeah.
when we were there one time. And then I just used to rip the flaps off the boxes in the garage and use those as like easels.
You did. Wow. Oh wow, man. That's super smart. I would have never thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um. Let's,
I do that and take her dining room chairs. Her dining room chairs are like my easels.
have your easels. Have it propped up against there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, man. So did your mom support like your love of art?
Yeah, like I don't know, like I didn't have to really ask her to like or get her to buy into it or whatever.
Okay.
Uh, I think it was just one of those things where it's like, well, this is what he likes to do, and if if it keeps him busy, I play video games and stuff like that, like most kids did. But it's like if it keeps him busy and it's like not too much TV or video games, he's actually doing something where he's kind of learning or teaching
Yeah.
himself stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, then yeah, like she bought into it like at an early age, and so she gave me sketchbooks and like markers and stuff like that. And even before I got like, even if it was just picking up something small, like getting the little sketchbooks from Walmart or like.
Right.
Then as I got older, it's like, okay, well, we can go to Hobby Lobby or
Yeah.
I learned how to use Indian ink and like just a bunch of other stuff. But like when she realized it was kind of like a thing, it's like, well,
Mhm.
he'll sit there and do it for hours. It's
Right.
just she's like, well, this is what he wants to do. So
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And that support is awesome too, because oftentimes we don't get that support as artists from family
yeah,
members. Yeah. So did you study art in college as well?
yeah. So I didn't take my first formal like art class until I had learned how to draw and do quite a bit of stuff on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have like my first formal art class or teacher until I was probably about 7 or 8 years old.
Okay.
Uh, there was a summer program I was a part of at the South Dallas Cultural Center,
Yeah.
and basically they tied African American history to the arts, and so
Mhm.
we had all these like different art classes, and there is where I kind of got some of my first instruction. But then you go back to school, and I didn't have an art teacher during the school year
Awesome.
until I got to sixth grade. So I was probably about because I skipped a grade, so I was like 10 when I actually took my first art class in school.
Wow.
And then from there, I went to an arts academy for middle school,
Mhm.
magnet school. I went to Skyline in Dallas,
Okay.
and so they had an advertising design program.
Yep.
And me and a lot of my friends from middle school, like we ended up going there. And then from there, when I got to college, because I really was focused on animation.
Okay.
I really like characters and stories, and I just thought like between comic books, how they translated from a comic to something that moves on film, like
Mhm.
Disney, and just a bunch of different that form itself. I thought was a way to like. I mean, there's a lot you can do with film now because of how advanced special effects are. But at the time when I was younger, I was like, you can stretch people's imagination so much further with animation. And
Right.
so I was heavily like interested into that. And then when I got to college, things kind of shifted and it wasn't as much 2D hand drawn stuff anymore. So I started learning how to do 3D and computer graphics. And so
Mhm.
both my undergrad and my graduate is like a combination of art, computer science, and then 3D and computer graphics.
Nice. Nice. Do you find yourself using some of your computer graphic skills in some of your actual like hand paintings?
Yeah, like, and here's the thing, it's different, right? But
Mhm.
essentially, you're doing the same thing. So
Mhm.
3D, my focus or specialty was like 3D modeling, character modeling, environmental modeling, stuff like that. Um, but basically, you're using the tools on the computer to like, it's like putting together a puzzle.
Right.
And
Right.
so as you're doing this, you have to think your way through it, like how you're going
Mhm.
to solve this problem, right? To be able to create the object or whatever, right? Render it, things like that. And it's basically the same thing when you paint, at least for me.
Mhm.
Because it's like, I mean, you got to know which brush to use, what the light is doing, what the shadows are doing,
Right.
uh, how are you looking in terms of, you know, background, foreground. What is the subject doing? What is the positive and negative space doing? So
Love
essentially, like you're solving problems. It just comes out, and I guess what some people would consider a creative format. But for me, it also helps me with work because I my job is like technology,
Right.
so it keeps my brain kind of in that problem solving mode.
It's dope. That's dope, man. Yo, is it true you graduated at 16?
Yeah, so I graduated from high school at 16. I finished undergrad at 20, which was very weird. Uh, so I finished undergrad at 20, and I was doing a bunch of stuff. Like I was doing like freelance web design slash development, teaching film classes.
Wow.
Got my first, I guess, kind of job, office job, as like a graphic designer. And then like I was eating lunch with one of my mentors, and he was just like, "Have you ever thought about like getting your graduate degree?" And I was like, "Well,
Hmm.
no," because I knew like so before me and my family, my uncle, he kind of stepped in because my dad passed when I was 6, but my uncle, he was the first one in the family to get his college education
Okay.
and finish. He finished from TSU with his
Mhm.
bachelor's degree,
Nice.
and he was the first Black Greek in our family. So he's a Sigma, member Phi
Okay.
Beta Sigma. Um, and so when I was in school, I was kind of like, man, I want to be like my Uncle Charles. You know what I'm saying? I want to. He gave me kind of like a benchmark to shoot for,
Right.
but I had never thought about okay, because I ended up pledging out for. I finished, I finished undergrad. I'm like 20 years old, but I had never thought about going back and getting my master's degree.
Mhm.
So I'm having this conversation with my mentor, one of my mentors, and I still talk to him to this day. He's a photographer. Um, and he was just like, well, you got to think about it this way: no wife, no kids, no mortgage yet. And I was like, well, when you put it that way, it's
Yeah.
a, it made sense.
Right.
And then too, it was just kind of like odd being like 20
Mhm.
in an office where I think the next youngest person might have been like late 20s, close to 30.
Also
So
30. Yeah.
I was just like younger than everybody. So I was looking at a couple of programs, but I ended up going back to UTD.
Okay.
Um, I got a graduate assistantship there, which paid for my tuition. So I was like, well,
Nice.
it was, it was challenging in undergrad. I know graduate school will be more challenging. And to me, that was the bigger thing in the quality and type of education you get.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
So,
You
yeah,
mentioned you mentioned that your mentor really influenced you to go back to grad school. Do you think
mhm.
that it's important as an artist to have a mentor?
Yeah, and the thing about it is he was a director of media for Scottish Rite Hospital before he retired. And I just go like I talked to him about all kinds of stuff, but I think for me, like him encouraging me to do that kind of opened up, I guess, more options that I could pursue like later on in my career, right?
Right. Right.
Uh, because what I didn't know at the time is if you have your MFA, then you know you can go be a college professor. You can, and in doing that, you can apply for grants and get to do all kinds of things or whatever. And not even that, just being able to have the time to really focus on very specific skill sets to develop them. Uh,
Right.
I had never thought about that until that conversation with him.
Hmm.
But I do think it is important. Like it's important to have people who will like tell you about those things, right?
Yeah.
So
That's dope, man. And I'm definitely a huge proponent for mentors. I have 3 different mentors that handle 3 different things. So yeah, I love to hear when you said my mentor said, I was like, yeah, I want to explore this a little more for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. So like you mentioned that you have a show coming up. You're working on a show soon. So how, if a young artist wants to know, hey, I got all these paintings, I want a show. Like, what would you tell them? Like, what's the steps or process to get a show?
So I didn't do my. It's crazy because it's the timing, but I didn't actually do my first solo exhibition until fall of 2020.
Oh
That's
wow.
what, that was my first solo. Well, no. January of 2020.
Okay.
I had my first solo. It was around this time at the Lincoln Experience Center in Frisco. And
Nice.
so what I did, it was just kind of like a recap from the past 10 years, pretty much from me starting back to paint because I stopped because I was doing so much digital stuff.
Hmm.
And then one night I was working on this. I was working on something for my portfolio. I spent 80 hours like on this like 3D model. Computer crashed, my file corrupted, and that night I was just like, and I had just finished graduate school, so I was like applying for jobs. So it was a combination of things that got me back into painting.
Mm-hmm.
I was frustrated because I lost all that work or whatever.
Okay.
But then too, just something else I noticed. I was going on these job interviews, and because I didn't have hands, I remember spent 45 minutes with this one guy. He's asking me all these questions about, and it was the technical part of the interview. And then he stops and he's like, the whole time, he's like, how do you use a keyboard and mouse? And I was just kind of like, okay.
Wow.
And so between those two things, I'm like, I got to start painting again
Yeah.
because on the one hand, as I go out I was looking to start my career, I need to
Mm-hmm.
be able to show people or something that people can see where it's like, okay, he doesn't have hands, but if he can do this, then
Yeah.
he can do this. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I mean, I get it because if you've never seen someone with a limb difference, you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, well, how do you use a keyboard or mouse or whatever? It's like,
Right.
for me, it's like second nature because I figured out my own way of doing it.
Of course. Yeah.
But those two things really got me back into painting. So what I would say, like for young artists, even if you have a collection of artwork, where I
Mm-hmm.
started first was just I didn't want to show anybody my work when I
Mm.
first started back painting.
Why is
Uh,
that?
just the thing where it's like being sensitive because I'm like,
Okay.
well, I was just doing it for myself at first, and I like a very specific reason so I could show people like if I was in those situations. But I never thought about putting it out there, and having a career as an artist again until he was my supervising professor when I was teaching at UTD.
Okay.
He was just like, dude, it doesn't have to be perfect. It'll never be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Put it out there and allow people to watch you grow.
Right. Right.
So after he gave me that advice, my first step was, okay, well, where do you find artists in Dallas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So finding different groups to engage with. I mean, we're in pandemic era
Right.
or whatever right now, but back then it was easier to find like meetups and stuff like that, and just
Mm-hmm.
go and meet people and ask questions and get connected and learn.
Yeah.
Not go there with like, I got my work I want to put in your show, but learn. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? There are
Yeah.
people out there who've been doing it for a while. See if you can come volunteer at something. And I did that a lot. There was a group I was involved with called Art Love Magic. A couple of other groups. I would just find these meetups and meet people and just, you know, you need somebody to put chairs and tables out.
I'm your guy. Yeah.
Yeah. But from there, you start to build relationships. And I was putting my own artwork out,
Mhm.
through like Facebook and Instagram, and just kind of become a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy to think that.
Instagram wasn't been here the whole time. Right.
But no, like I just kind of started like putting myself out there. Some of the early there was like this Ustream thing. So I used to stream myself when I was in the studio at UTD at night too.
Nice.
Uh, I just started putting myself out there, meeting people. And then from there, you get the opportunities extended to you to be a part of collaborative shows. And so, and even with that, it wasn't just I'm dropping my work off. It's like, do you need help? Can I help?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
set up or tear down, or like what time do you need? I always be on time.
Yeah.
I always early. You know,
For
because
sure.
people are affording you or giving you those opportunities.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, after doing several collaborative shows, I got to the point where I did one, and I'm like, okay, well, let's do two.
Hmm.
And the most I did in a year, I got to a point where I was doing like at least 5 or 6 a year, but then I kind of dialed it back
Okay.
because I realized three is like a happy medium because it gives you enough space to create work for the show
Yeah.
and not be like stressed about it.
Right.
But definitely getting involved in collaborative shows. And then from there, continuing to like meet people, make connections. And I guess my thing is 2 ears, one mouth. So for me, that always means no matter where you are, you keep learning, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then I guess it was 2019, no, early 2020. So after I did my show at the Lincoln Experience Center, he was one of my instructors at the South Dallas Cultural Center program, and he's been career artist for a long time. Emmanuel Gillespie
Okay.
and his wife, Dr. Valerie Gillespie, they reached out to me about working with them. They opened a gallery in Addison. They're in the design district now.
Nice.
He reached back out to me, and then the lady that was I call her Mama Vicky, but
Vicky
um,
Meek. Hmm.
like she's watched me, a bunch of us in Dallas just kind of grow up. And
Right.
so it was cool because my mom passed away early 2020 and they reached out to me like afterwards. And what a lot of people don't know is like even when I would do my paintings, my mom was the first person I would show. She
Mm.
wasn't an artist, but I think she knew me well enough
Yeah.
to be able to critique my work. So like
Hmm.
I would show her first and she'd be like, you need to go back and fix this or change this, or I like the way you did that, but
Yeah.
why are the colors like this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so without her here, it's like I was kind of like I actually thought about I was like I can't do this anymore, you
Wow.
know.
Yeah.
But they reached out to me and just having his mentorship again, call him Sensei,
Yeah, for sure.
because he's like the calmest. He has this whole zen about his personality.
Nice.
But just having somebody there that can give you that feedback and push you at the same time, the timing of it is just I don't think you can plan things like that.
That's dope,
And,
man.
but that again, that's like 10 years probably
Mhm.
condensed down into a few minutes. And so now working with them and even still just trying to learn what I can do better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's real, bro. And that's great. That's great. Also, like to think about, like to hear your story of how you got your first show. And it's showing up. I always tell. I come from the theater world, so I always tell my actors when I'm training them. I was like, "Yo, make sure you show up, be present at all times. Be like you said, be on time and stay in the way. Because if you're the person that stayed around, like, hey, let me help you move these chairs, you're going to become front of mind when they have something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. If it's
And even
genuine.
and even just I don't know, it's just like again, like just being humble,
Yeah,
and being
yeah.
willing to learn. Because even like when you start, like I remember I was like, oh my God, there's so many people. And this was crazy to me. When people think art, they think East Coast, West Coast.
Yeah.
There's so many people I met in Dallas and still continue to meet.
Mhm.
And it's just like there's some really talented people here. So like starting out, I was like, oh my God, like I don't even know where I fit. But again, just be willing to learn, understand, and listen, and give yourself grace and room to develop because you'll develop in your own way or whatever. And so, and listen to feedback. And then
Yeah.
you have people that may not like your work, but the thing about it is, your work is going to be your work,
Mhm.
regardless of if somebody, but the most important thing I think you can take from those types of experiences is you keep going, because if somebody doesn't like your work now, they don't know where you're going to be in 10 years.
It's true, man, for sure. Yeah, that's
You
real.
just gotta keep going and keep learning, and you know, but make sure you don't lose your voice. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll get the critique and the feedback and things like that, and it's good. But make sure it comes from somebody. Like, again, I trusted my mom, so I go to her first a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of my professors at UTD I still kept in touch with, but then even now, like Mr. G or whatever, like he gives me that feedback, and it's like, take it home, redo this, this, and this. Take it back home and redo this, this, and this,
Yeah.
or fix this or change that, or like, I like the colors, but the content, maybe push it a little more or something like
Right.
that. So it's just having somebody who can give you that feedback to help you grow, and you just got to give yourself grace and room to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I'm gonna put that on T-shirt. Give yourself grace and room. I love that. That's dope. What's next for Desmond? What you have coming up? What can we support?
What's next? So show in the spring, first off, and then Miss Vicky. I didn't get a chance to do it because my head was just kind of still in shock from losing my mom in 2020. But she told me about a portrait competition the Smithsonian does, and the entries open every 3 years. So after I do my show this year, I'm going to continue just kind of producing work in the gallery through the remainder of the year. But the way I'm looking at it is like training, so I can prep myself for submission into that the national portrait competition. So
nice.
There was another summer show that Scottish Rite used to do, but that's been, COVID has kind of changed the ways, those things work.
Right.
But eventually, I guess because of my participation in that, where I want to get to is ultimately not just doing opening and closing receptions, but maybe at some point like a larger event that's sort of like our show fundraiser.
Okay.
For charities in like DFW.
Nice.
That work with either arts education, like to help kids or whatever, or teach kids, or people with limb differences.
Nice, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. And then if we want to follow you, how do we follow you on social medias?
You can follow me on Instagram, D_Blair. My portfolio page on Instagram is Art Without Obstacles. I'm on Facebook. Instagram messages I'm more inclined to reply to because I get more inquiries about paintings and stuff like that through there. But the best way, like if you're really trying to reach me, also follow Pencil on Paper Gallery. Reach out to them, and then they get a hold of me, and we do the whole email thing, and we just kind of work it out and go from there.
Makes sense, man. Makes sense. And you have art for sale currently?
Yeah, so they have 3 of my paintings on display right now, and then I have my next batch I'm like working up. So hopefully by the time I do my show, I'm looking to try to get at least solid 10 to 12 pieces done.
Dope, man. Dope. So hey, everybody, make sure you go and follow and support and purchase some art from Desmond Blair. Make sure you let everybody know that Black arts do matter, for sure, for sure. Hey man, we're gonna play a game called This or That. You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so with this or that, I give you 2 scenarios, 2 words, 2 situations, and you tell me which one you pick, which one you more align with, and then we will talk about why. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So it's gonna be we're gonna start off pretty easy. Whataburger or Chick-fil-A?
Oh, man, it's hard.
I said it was easy.
That one is not easy. I'm gonna go with Whataburger, man, just because like 2 a.m. you can't beat Whataburger at 2 a.m.
Okay. If you could have a superpower, would you rather be able to fly or be invisible?
Probably invisible because I like the people watch since I paint people.
Okay. If you had an all-paid vacation, would you go to Miami or would you go to New York?
Ooh. Ooh, that one is a tough one. Probably Miami, just to be at the beach.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
just to be at the beach.
Okay. Okay. I can definitely go for that. Um, Intimate gathering, big party. Which one?
Mm, intimate gathering.
Okay.
That
Why
way,
intimate?
because you can actually get to know people, talk to
Mm,
them, learn stuff from them, or whatever. And again, two ears, one mouth. I mean, somebody may drop some wisdom on you you'll need for the next week, year, who knows? So,
gotcha.
yeah.
Painting on canvas, painting with digital art. Which one?
Canvas, most definitely.
Why canvas?
It's just like home. I don't know any other way to put it, but Canvas is just like home. And then it's more about because when you digital paint, it's like you have to know the software so you can spend time like setting the software up before you actually start working.
Mm-hmm.
When I paint on Canvas, I just put my paints out, grab my brushes, and then turn some music on. You just go. So
Nice.
there's like a muscle memory to it.
Gotcha.
Along with working through what's going on in your head. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Last question. Last
All right.
question. Um, Boys in the Hood or Friday?
Easy. You're not making these easy. Um, yeah, it's hard. I'm gonna go Friday.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Well,
go Friday just because I like to laugh. I like to
okay.
laugh.
Okay. Okay. That works. That works. That works. So I love to do this and that, man, because it really lets me it opens up a different world. Let me know how you think and what you feel. And it's also fun to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Those are not easy though. I'm in New York when I'm kind of like, well, I got my reasons. I don't go to New York, but then I
Right.
like being here. So yeah, it's
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So, thank you for joining us for this or that, and 40 under 40. Hey, everybody, make sure that you support, like, share, comment, support this brother Desmond Blair and all the work he's doing. Desmond, thank you again, brother.
thank you for having me, man. It was a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Make sure you stay tuned and check out the next people in the next week.